going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Noodle Time, episode 166. I am your host, Mark Segovia, alongside my co-host, Xespool. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, y'all? How are y'all doing today? Beautiful, beautiful Thursday. A lot of news. How's everyone?
Glad to see you, my guy. Glad to see you, man. First and foremost, happy 2026. Happy New Year to all you guys. I know it's a little bit late. I know we're in today's January 15th. We're halfway through the
Second
month.
week, just 2 weeks, bro.
But,
Happy belated New Year.
Happy belated New Year. I guess that's how it goes. But man, a lot of great stuff has happened. I didn't expect. Well, maybe I did expect to get on the show around this time. Maybe I was hoping for a little bit later in the month. But a lot of stuff going on in the Dynamo clubhouse. So obviously we have to get on and share our opinions. Obviously, guys, get your thoughts on things. G Money, what's going on? Giuseppe, what's going on, my guy? He says I'm
What's up?
more excited for the season. We're all excited, guys. A lot of good things have popped up, and a lot of good things coming up as well. But with that being said, before we get into all the semantics of the Dynamo and everything that's going on, Cesspool, what's your New Year's resolution, my guy?
My New Year's resolution is to stop getting so mad every time we drop the ball.
Well,
But personally, just self-improvement, learn new skills and spend a little more time with the family this year than I did the year before. That's all.
Amen to that. Amen to that, my friend. Yeah, hopefully the Dynamo can help you with that not getting so mad at the club deal. And obviously self-improvement is always a good thing. It's always a good thing to reflect on your own self and see where you can grow and mature and advance. If you spend, there's an old quote saying, obviously if you waste a day and you don't learn, then you wasted the whole day. If you go a day without learning, you wasted a day. Something like that. So, obviously for me, obviously I do agree. Spending more time with the family would be something awesome that I would love to do. And then obviously, just self improvement, man. And obviously, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I want to drop like 20, 25 pounds this year. So,
hey, more power to you, bro.
Yeah. So we'll see, and then hopefully we can keep this guy smiling throughout the whole year. So we'll see what's going on with that.
Week.
Yeah, for sure. But let's get started, man. But before we get to all the announcements and all the good stuff, one of the good things about that came up at the end of last month or whatever from the Dynamo is that there will be a Torneo de Tejas preseason tournament that will be hosted by our truly Houston Dynamo and our rivals FC Dallas up in Frisco. It's a 4-club mini tournament to start up the preseason. It'll include obviously us, FC Dallas, New York Red Bulls, and Atlanta United. I'm excited, to be honest, with this kind of tournament. I've always vouched for this kind of tournament, to happen for the Dynamo or for the Dynamo to be involved in, as far as bringing other clubs. But, I think in the future, now that we're going to go into the window where everybody else is at, into the FIFA window, right, into the FIFA calendar, starting next year, we'll be able to have preseason tournaments with maybe international clubs, bring other clubs from other countries and, help our preseason up and whatever and all that good stuff. But with that being said, this is a nice start into our preseason, a nice thing to have. I'm not sure. I want to say that the games are going to be open to the public as far as going. I'm not too sure. You'll have to.
Yeah. They're going to play at Toyota Shell Energy. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have the games open. I haven't seen any releases from the team as far as tickets or anything or even on the app itself. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure they're going to have to come up with something. I mean, we're almost there anyways.
And speaking of the app, man, remember, guys, no longer StubHub for the ticker. So download that ticker app, so that way when we're out here, hopefully giving away tickets or whatever, or passing on tickets along to our followers and our supporters, that's the only way we're going to be able to get it to you through the ticker app. So make sure you download that, and obviously have your Dynamo tickets at the palm of your hands at all times. But with that being said, let's get to the meat of things. We had a public announcement this earlier this morning, a press conference per se, 4 new signings. Guilherme from Santos, Brazilian. Lucas Halter from Botafogo, Brazilian. Agustín Bouzat from the Argentine league, and obviously the one and only El Zorro, Hector Herrera, coming back from a year in Toluca where he ended up winning basically everything in Liga MX. Came back to finish to try to right some wrongs that he had going on here. So, but with that being said, obviously we all. I mean, I don't know if you did, but I heard a little bit of the press conference. A lot of things obviously going on with the club internally, as far as people of known being being moved on from the club. Obviously, little bit of a
A little
turmoil,
controversy
a
there,
little
yeah. A
controversy
lot
there,
of changes, a lot of
a
changes, a
lot of
lot of
changes.
changes fans don't like, a lot of changes fans do like.
Hmm.
It's a very tumultuous preseason, to say
Yeah,
the
and
least. It's a busy preseason, but
for
it's
sure,
very
and with
it's crazy.
changes, that's going to be the case. Your thoughts on the press conference with Pat, and anything that Pat say stand out before we get into the players.
I mean, to be quite fair, I listened to some of the press conference. More of the same, to be honest. I mean, we've heard the same kind of message throughout the entire preseason, and now it is nice to have Hector back. It was a good press conferences press conference from him. And it showed that now he comes in with a rewired chip right now. As far as Pat, um, I mean, I heard it all, and we haven't seen that materialize yet. Their moves are there, but I'm very more apprehensive personally on what he said today, and I'm just kind of I'm gonna sit back and I'm just gonna see, right? Uh, Go ahead.
I think one of the things that kind of caught me from the beginning of when Pat had the floor was him talking about Ted and his commitment to the city of Houston and the Dynamo as a club. Because I think a lot of fans have this fear where somebody's going to come in, buy the club, and try to sell it off in a couple of years for obviously
Pro- yeah.
for profit,
Relocation or
relocation, all that
whatnot.
stuff.
Yeah.
And what's your personal feeling towards that, and how do you feel any more comfortable as far as like knowing that I'm not so much relocation. I don't think the Dynamo are being relocated anywhere, but as far as Ted being committed to the future of the club and being here for an extended period of time.
Um, I hope he does. I mean, he hasn't been doing bad when he like overall. I hope he stays. It reassures me a little bit that the plans are to keep the club long term. They want to build a sense of community with the team, identity. So those are things that take time to build, right? And so that gives me hope that they'll stay here for the long run, right? There was talks at the end of last season, if I'm not mistaken, they were trying to sell the team to or they were talking about selling the team to a Chinese
That was the dash. That was the
investor.
dash.
The dash, okay. Uh, so that if that would have materialized, or just the fact of that rumor being around, it kind of shakes you to your core a little bit because Houston has already been, under different ownerships in the past, and every time a new ownership comes in, is scrap the old and restart over. And I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure at this point, after 20 years here, fans are tired of the rebuild, and it just fans want a
some
project,
stability. He wants some
And
stability.
so, yeah, exactly, for lack of better term. So it reassures me, but then again, they want to. The thing is, I've heard a lot and haven't seen much. So, I, in that aspect, again, apprehensive.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to see what the moves are based on what they say.
I mean, overall, I think we have to take it as a plus to the Ted Siegel era at the moment, right? Because
Sure.
I mean, obviously, the club was at such a deep rock bottom when he bought the club, and for him to kind of get the turnover over so quickly, as far as getting us back into becoming a winning side, and even lifting the trophy during that time period, it just goes to show, when you have unity and when you have a focus towards a goal, it can happen. And hopefully, like I said, obviously they dropped the ball a little bit last year with the with the transfers and not getting certain type of players of of quality back in the club. But I mean, you learn as you go. And he's a first time sports team owner. he's learning as he goes. He's trying to do the best he can for what he got, and he's relying on his soccer people to help him. Obviously, make the Dynamo as great of a club as he possibly make it. And obviously, I think it only benefits not only him but MLS in general for Houston to be a top echelon club in the league, because obviously a lot of Houston is a global city. Houston is known for a lot of things, and obviously the soccer background here is very deep and very knowledgeable. The only thing missing is just a top echelon club to go alongside it. So hopefully we're
That's
going towards
right.
that. I feel that we're going towards that direction. So we'll see. What were we saying, Cecil?
No, I mean, to piggyback off of that, I think that's what you said it, man. I mean, in a better way to say it is the people want a club that's on par with the level of culture we have here for the team. I think Houston is one of those cities where football is alive and well, and the community here is huge. I've attended several events, on the outside, from Boat League all the way to Azteca. So it's been great, man. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of quality teams and players, and the culture is amazing.
Mhm.
So I think Houston is just waiting for them to have that club, and I don't think right now the club deserves a fan base. They're working towards it, but the fans, with the low attendances, show you. And and this year, hopefully, you know, we'll cross our fingers. We start
Yeah.
moving towards that direction, and we build up on what we did in
For
2024.
sure, for sure. Like they said, Rome wasn't built in a day. So
Right.
it takes time, and obviously we're here. We're supporters. We're fanatics. I mean, obviously we don't do this podcast. We don't get paid for this podcast or anything. This is my own personal time. This is your own personal time, because we're such huge fans, and we're in love with this club that we decided to take our time and do these type of things. Giuseppe on the chat says Ben was cheesing hard. Obviously when we see press conferences with Ben Olsen, we don't really see him smile that much. So it's good to see him have a smile on his face. Obviously new weapons and new players to hopefully get the Dynamo back on track. And then his next question is, my question is, how much of what Glenn said is true? I haven't heard anything of what Glenn has been talking about, Giuseppe. I mean, if you want to include it in the chat to see what he's talking about, I mean, I haven't had the chance to listen to what he has to say on his show. Maybe that's something that we can talk about next show on our next show next week. But I haven't had any. I haven't heard anything. Have you, Cesspool?
Um, Kind of been in the middle of the hurricane. I haven't reached out to Glenn personally. I do know him personally, but I haven't reached out to him out of respect. This is a very, you know
Sensitive
shocking
time.
time.
Sensitive time.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive time, and so. But what I do know is everything that's been posted out there. I mean, and I'm talking about just official sources, the Cron, that interview he gave. And I think Victor Araiza too, our good friend Victor was made a series of posts on Twitter where he actually kind of broke down why the Dynamo decided not to renew him, because for those of you who don't know, Glenn was on a year-to-year contract, and then this year the Dynamo just decided not to renew him, and a lot of people, including Victor, myself included, believe that the main reason why is because of how outspoken he was for the club. And it kind of came down to academies. We've heard Pat say numerous times that they want to, build, they have a very successful academy and they want to bring up players from that academy. Right. But when in November, Glenn had a podcast where he was actually criticizing a press conference where Pat had just said that. So, and he questioned, the big question was, well, how many players have you brought up from the academy? Because let's not make a mistake about it. Reigns was not an actual
No.
Dynamo product. He was brought in as a Dynamo 2 player from New England, or no, Chicago, actually. So he's not really our development product, but we have players, and Glenn has said this before, like Sebas Rodriguez, at some point Femi, at some point Papa Ndoye, and they were never given a chance. And then you see players, and this is conversations I had with other people that are working the media that are like, why did Xavier leave? Why did Nico leave? So there's a lot of questions, and I think it just came down to that. I mean, Glenn is always honest. Glenn is going to call it like he sees it, and I think it just that's what it came down to.
This is what I'll say this, and we'll move on to the topic at hand. But
Yeah,
obviously, Glenn. Obviously him being tied with the Dynamo as far as being an employee in the Dynamo, that's one thing. But obviously on his ESPN show or on his social media outlets or whatever, that's his own personal takes and opinions, right? And he's entitled to those opinions. And
For
honestly,
sure.
I do agree with most of what Glenn has said about as far as about the academy and producing a true homegrown player. Obviously, the Dynamo 2 has been used to bring in younger internationals to let them get play time, and then obviously bring them up. Players like obviously Felipe Andrade is a good example of that from last year. Played a couple games with Dynamo 2, then came up and he just took the bull by the horns
He
and
killed
became
it.
a
Yeah.
first team player. He killed it, right? But obviously, when it comes to actual homegrown players like you mentioned, Sebastian Rodriguez or Xavier Valdez, who was a good goalkeeper for us last season, last year, a couple of seasons back. Left, and nobody knows why really, and obviously he goes on to go be a
Nashville.
goalkeeper for Nashville, and he's the starting goalkeeper for his national team in Dominican Republic, so it's just questions, but like I said, guys, I haven't really heard too much of it, so
Yeah.
I don't want to talk out of pocket, so let's move on. Cesspool, from here on out, my name is Mark da Silva Nazario, aka aka Marquinho. Okay,
I'm done with that.
you know the Jogo Bonito era is here in Houston. Let's talk about two of the four new signings who are obviously Brazilian. Guilherme from Santos, who's a winger who very talented winger who scored a lot of goals for Santos, who helped Santos the last 5 games of the season last year to stay up in the first division. Alongside a player that you might know named Neymar. Him and Neymar helped Santos stay up in the first division of Brazilian football. And then obviously Lucas Halter, who comes from Botafogo, who as of recently Botafogo is one of the biggest powerhouses in Brazilian soccer. A captain. He was on loan for Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah,
Victoria Guimaraes, I think.
yeah, captain for them. So, obviously 25 years old, so a nice ripe age going into his prime. Nice physical player. Your thoughts on Guilherme and Halter?
Um, I mean, I can see a universe where Guilherme stars with an Ali. And that would be threatening on paper. Guilherme is amazing, man. I mean, he has a good track record. He brings a lot of pace. He's very smart, a leader on the field, and then that's kind of what we lacked. I think a lot of us can agree that the Dynamo lacked a lot of leadership last year, and they recognized it themselves by bringing in 4 captains, and so he will bring a lot of experience too. I think he still has a little bit left in the tank, at least 1 2 years.
He's 30 years old. He's just to have a couple more years.
Right, and so for a winger, it's tough to stay, but I think he can do it. He'll fit in great in the system. He's very dynamic, very quick. Now, as far as Halter is a guy that can tackle. Is a guy that can show you that can tackle. Is a guy that has. Um, I look at him more like Zvyachenko in the attitude, very aggressive, like a little pit bull. That's going to help us out a lot. Brings a lot of solidity on the back, which we desperately need. I think they're great pickups. We just got to see if Ben can actually bring out the juice, that they have.
Do you think Halter is the actual replacement for Mikael from last year?
No, I don't think we can say that yet. He's meant to the same way we try to do that with Femi, you know. But I don't think he's there yet. I mean, uh, he's meant to. He's meant to. I think that's where we're going with that. Uh, and we just got to see on the preseason.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I'm
really.
glad
I don't.
actually. I'm glad we're bringing him, all in from the preseason. If you
For
remember
sure, for
last
sure,
year,
for
we
sure.
were scrambling, and now if you see, we have a busier preseason. Last year we went to Mexico. Fortunately, got our players hurt. This year we're staying here. We're going to Florida, and then we're playing here. So I think that'll be enough reps for Ben to see the entire squad from Exxon all the way to Guilherme. Yeah, Nick Bogus shows up, which was almost a done deal. then that'll be great, man. We'll have enough reps in the team to be able to say, okay, this is my structure, this is my game plan, this is what I'm doing. So it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. I mean, obviously, the loss of Mikael was a big blow to us, and then obviously the fact that Shevchenko got hurt and never really recovered and was gone for most of the season was a big blow to our defense. And then I really don't want to throw like Obafemi as being labeled as that replacement, because I think he was just like the best option of whatever we had at the moment. So it's it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, I do think that Halter is that player that Pat did decide to go after as the true replacement for Mikael. It just hopefully he does live up to that billing and hopefully exceeds it, because as you know, we'll be seeing Mikael, in MLS next season with Inter Miami. So
Sadly.
sadly,
Sadly,
but
I'm about to DM him too. I'm like, bro, what the heck are you doing?
well, look,
Mika.
if you DM him, if you're cool with him, tell him to send me a signed Messi jersey. Uh,
Oh my god.
but
And
with
you
that,
know what, bro? We should do that. We should do it at the game. Actually, I'll catch him at the game too.
right? Now, with that being said, man, obviously it's a good kind of, obviously we already have like a big a pretty nice sizable Brazilian amount of players on the team with Arthur and Felipe Andrade and Pedro Cruz and stuff like that, Antonio Carlos, and obviously they those guys along with the new guys went to go check out the Rockets the other game, so it was good to see that
Yeah,
commodity. Obviously it's always relaxing to have people from the same background, especially from the same nationality, same country background as and that makes it easier for those new players to come in and hopefully adjust quickly. So hopefully that works out for them. But let's talk about the next signing, Agustín Bouzat from Vélez and the Argentine First League. He was their captain, defensive midfielder. One is to think, obviously before we headed into 2026, Brooklyn Reigns has been traded to the New England Revolution. We got I forgot, I think we got like 1.8 million for him, alongside with
allocation
a
money. Yeah,
couple extra 100,000 if he hits certain incentives or whatever. But with that
he
being
will.
said, you get an experienced player of veteran leadership, who has won in the first division in Argentina, and who was captain for his team as well. So I mean, obviously, you might not get the same speed and the youthfulness of Rain, but what he lacks in speed and drive, we will make up in experience and IQ, and obviously just overall soccer knowledge. Your thoughts on Bouzat?
When I first heard about that signing, I will confess to you, I'm very alien to Argentine league. I do know the teams. I do know players like Dupuy who just left. You know, but other than that, like I had to look him up, and now seeing his number, seeing his replays, I feel like he could start over Arthur. And looking at his stats, looking at the way he's played after his injury, he came back and he's playing okay. So I think he brings in a lot of good passing. I think the speed really won't matter much because of the kind of play style we're gonna have. I don't think we're gonna have a very fast attacking play style. I think we like to keep the ball. We like to, recycle the ball, move the ball around. So I think what they're bringing in is more pieces that can do that. And Bozad is very well educated with his foot, bro. He can pass the ball. So I'm really excited about that. He can defend very well. So the question would be now: are we playing with two CDMs or one? And that's the first question I had, right?
Yeah,
What are
yeah.
your thoughts?
We seen supposedly a supposed information that Ben and the front office have been talking about switching over to. Who knows if that's true or what's going to happen, or we'll go back to his old 4-3-3 or whatever, or however it goes. But regardless of the fact, the thing that I think that you want, especially when it comes to defensive mid, and obviously look, Arthur had a down year last year, right? But let's not. But
Yeah,
we know what kind of quality Arthur had, and on top of that, it was a lot of weight to be thrown on Arthur. I mean, he lost his two counterparts in Coco and Hector. He was playing alongside Brooklyn, which obviously, like I said, even though Brooklyn is very talented and very knowledgeable for his age, still a young player who's going to make mistakes and stuff like that. You're coming in to play with McGlynn, who's first year playing with the Dynamo. You don't know where exactly he wants the ball at, or how much time he's going to come back to help you defend, and when he's going to go up and be offensive and stuff like that. So it was a lot of moving parts, that helped alongside. I'm not trying to make an excuse for Arthur, but just, I don't want the narrative to be like, oh man, Arthur just went from being, one of the best CDMs in the league to just crap.
Well,
I don't think that's the case.
but you also got to look at this. He was also playing with two guys that were very attacking minded.
For sure.
McGlynn is not defensive by no means. I mean, he's a playmaker, and Reigns is a box to box midfielder, and a lot of times, and a lot of times Mikael was. Mikael Arthur. He's thinking about me, bro. Arthur is probably caught in the back by himself, and it was a bigger hole he had to fill, and he just doesn't have the pace for that. Now with Herrera being back and now having players that can slow the ball more, control the tempo better, he will look better now because the team won't play as quick as we did last year. And I think that'll help him out a lot. But I just don't, with the signings that we brought in, I don't see him starting.
Well, I mean, that's a very big statement on your end. I mean, I think Arthur returns as our captain, honestly, and I think he does start. I don't think, like I said, I think Arthur was just the whole team was horrible last year. Let's not sugarcoat it, right? And it just so happened that obviously, like I said, he was part of that downfall, whatever, and that's what it was. But I think with the fact that obviously you're bringing back Herrera, who obviously is not going to take that much time to get reacquainted with how Ben wants him to play, and then obviously all that stuff, and then you're bringing in a veteran like Bouzat, who's a captain elsewhere and knows how to play that position, and he's very more defensive minded than attack minded. I think it's a good piece to have, as far as whether if we go 2-6s, then obviously we'll be rotating between those three guys, to play those two spots. Or if it's 1-6, I mean, obviously it's the best of whoever comes out of the preseason, and obviously if it's a battle between those three guys, whoever comes out on top, it's just going to be that much better for the team overall, because obviously all those three guys are used to being starters and used to being first on the team sheet, and they all want to be starters, regardless of what anybody says. Players want to play,
for sure.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited.
I would say one more thing though. Like with that being said, just if we follow Ben's I guess psyche or his decision making, and based on that, you let go of a player like Ethan Barlow for punctual mistakes. Barlow made too many mistakes, right? And then it's just not this year or last year. So he gets let go, right? I think with Arthur made the reason why I say he will lose his starting spot is because last year, you can say, okay, he didn't cover the ball, he wasn't quick enough. You can say all that, but one thing that is unexcusable is giving away the ball and costing us goal.
No,
and that happened more than once. So if Ben is rational with his thinking, unless Arthur came back a whole different man, which could happen. I mean, if we have the 2024 Arthur, he will start. But if he comes back, and is still not convincing, I because of those mistakes, I think that will play in the back of Ben's head and say, okay, well, maybe I was on. I see him starting in the beginning of the preseason, and by the preseason, we'll know who the number 6 will be.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about defensive mids, I mean, obviously the return of El Zorro, Héctor Herrera, number 16, our old team captain, has come back to right some wrongs, to handle some unfinished business. He calls Houston his city. He loves it here. His kids are obviously in the academy. His family's here and all that good stuff. So it's great to hear those things. Obviously the last memory that we have of Héctor Herrera in Orange is obviously the spit gate, when he's him spitting on the referee, and obviously, and for all those wondering whether or not he's going to have to serve a 3-game suspension because of that, he's already served it when he went to Toluca, so he's free to start on season opener if Finn does decide to pick him for the match day 18. So no worries there. But your thoughts on Hector Herrera? I mean, just coming back, obviously a big profile name, regardless of obviously him being much older. But he high profile name, obviously associated with the success of what the Dynamo had during their successful run, the 2-year run with him, his first go round. What are your thoughts and what is your expectations for Hector Herrera this time around?
I do see the team holding it together more mentally. I think last year there were a lot of times where we saw the games and we felt defeated. Even before the game ended, and I think he'll bring that. You know, he'll be able to bring out the best out of each guy in tough situations. That's the kind of guy you want to have in your team. And then let's not forget who he is. He great track record playing in clubs like Porto, captaining the Porto. Going to Atletico Madrid, and then now coming off of Toluca. Yes, he didn't play as much, but Toluca was stacked. And so to have a guy like him and as a depth piece and still be able to do something for your club and contribute, it just shows the guy still has some gas left in the tank. And I'm personally, I'm happy that he's back. And I hope we get the 2024 Herrera instead of the 2025 one. And I think after the press conference, I'm confident that's the guy we brought back.
Yeah, I think he looks, especially with the press conference, he looks more focused. Obviously he had a lot of personal dilemmas going on the last season,
Yeah.
injuries and things of that nature going on as well. The focus wasn't there and all that good stuff. It's understandable, right? Life is gonna life, and
Hmm.
sometimes it affects your professionalism. But he's back. He looks. To be honest, he looks a lot fitter than what he did before. So I mean,
Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah, he looks ready. He looks determined. He looks determined to right the wrongs that he left behind. And and with that being said, like, look, man, a motivated Hector Herrera is a top player in MLS.
Yeah,
Regardless of age, it's basically having another coach on the pitch. You know, a leader, a true leader, whether or not he's captain, and he's already made the statement. Look, I'm not here to be captain. Arthur is our captain, and whatever the team decides as far as the second, third, and fourth captain, if I'm picked, then I'm picked. But I'm not here to take the captain's band from Arthur. Arthur is our
for
captain.
sure.
So with that, he's already coming in with the mindset of as of look,
I'm
I'm
one
not here.
more. Yeah.
I'm not. It's not about me. It's about us. And that's
Yeah.
great to see from the get go because obviously you know one of the big things about bringing players of that stature who have played for big clubs like Porto, Atletico Madrid, Toluca, you wonder whether or not they still have the ambition and determination to want to play a high level of soccer when they come to MLS. And I think Hector does. I think Hector wants to lift an MLS Cup for the Dynamo and for the city of Houston. So that's always good to see. And am I expecting us to get the same Hector Herrera who scored, what was it, the 2023 campaign when he was an MVP candidate, and I think what he had
Yeah.
like 7 goals and like 16 assists or something like that with us? I'm not expecting that. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be a full-time starter, but I think
Mm-mm.
what I think he is that he'll start a lot of games. I'm not gonna deny that. And obviously, like I said, he's not gonna need that much time to get acclimated because he already knows the system and he already knows how
It's match fit too.
and all that stuff too. He's fit already because the Liga MX season didn't finish that long ago. And then on top of that, like I said, if a player like Bouzat, needs a little bit of time to get acclimated, you have Hector ready to go to line him up beside Arthur. Or like I said, if
Hmm.
Arthur isn't up to par because he's still lingering from whatever, then you have Hector ready to go. That's the great thing about having a player of that
Yeah.
caliber. And then obviously, like I said, I think the club is gonna. I think the club, the players, a lot of the players, especially the ones who were there during his first stint with us, are gonna rally around him and are happy to see him. I think a lot of those players were not happy to see him go. I wasn't happy with the way he was let go, honestly. But I mean,
Me neither.
things happen the way the way it happened for a reason, and obviously that's between the club and the player. But like I said, chapter 2, we'll see what happens. And I'm
I'd say
excited.
volume two, bro. Volume
Volume
two.
volume 2, volume 2. Uh
Herrera volume two.
Yeah, he is. Giuseppe says he got fire in him. No, I'm like, yeah, for sure, man. I think he comes in like I said, he's motivated, dude. I mean, like I said, he looks fit. He looks ready to go. He looks a lot skinnier. That his face structure looks a lot thinner. So I mean, whatever they had him doing in Toluca, you know,
It
they
was working.
it was working. So I mean, and obviously, like I said, maybe we don't think
Hey,
that
and no, go ahead.
maybe we don't think that he's a starter, but who knows? Maybe he shows up and he ends up being our best player. You know, you
I
don't
mean,
know.
one thing to note though. I mean, the guy stayed healthy.
He did.
And that's a big plus,
He did.
because not only have you, I mean, because he played all throughout March, May, the
Mhm.
break, and then he still played. The last game was November, so he's still match fit. He's very healthy, and so he's gonna hit the ground running with the club because he knows the system. And Ben has said it numerous times. He has never coached a player like him, so the trust in him is huge. So I'm thinking that he's gonna make a bigger impact, and you could tell right away, man. His mentals are way different than
Yeah.
when the way he left.
Yeah, I think the aura he brings back into the club is something that the club was drastically missing from last year. That's I think one of the downfalls. It's a lot of people obviously the big thing about it is that obviously he doesn't come in as a DP. He doesn't occupy a DP spot,
Mhm.
so that's great, right? But when he was a DP, that's what a player of that stature can do for a club, especially one that's committed to the same objectives and goal that the club has.
Mhm.
It can uplift the club to another level, and even though Hector doesn't have that DP contract anymore, these players don't look at him any different. They know what kind of player he is. They know his achievements. They know what he's done in the world of soccer. They know what he's done for his national team. They know what he's done at the club level. They know that he's maybe he's not the world class talent that he was 10 years ago, but they know what he is and what he's capable of. So I'm excited for that. And like I said, well, the thing about him is he holds players accountable. On the pitch,
Mhm.
he lets he coaches.
We've seen it.
We've
We've
seen it.
seen it.
We've seen it. That doesn't change. He might be a little slower. He might not be as quick. He might not be as agile. But the mentality and the IQ doesn't leave. He knows how to get players where they need to be. He talks. He communicates. He's like, hey, look. Next time when you're here, if I need you to be, if I'm going to make this pass, I need you to be over here, not over here. I need you to make this run. I need you to make this blah blah blah. He's always talking. He's always talking to his counterparts. So that's one thing, the true signs of a true leader, a true captain. And I'm glad to have him back. I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of people were like, what is this? What, blah, 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 what's going on, blah, blah. Why are we bringing back a 36-year-old, 37-year-old, whatever, how old he is, whatever.
They're gonna be out there fucking screaming his name, buying his shirts, bro. I mean, real
Look,
talk. Those are the same kind of people that do that.
look,
And
at,
if you don't say it, I will.
no, for sure. And at the end of the day, look, what did you think Vancouver said anything when they brought in the 38-year-old Thomas Mueller? Do you think Miami say
Fuck no,
you think Miami
no.
has any difference because of Luis Suarez being 38 or Messi being 38? Or I'm like, dude, these players are older, but like I said, they're world class players. They have the soccer knowledge and IQ, and that's what keeps them above the top echelon of players in this league. The league isn't as difficult as the ones in Europe. That's why they're able to still be a dominant force in this league, whatever
Let's
position.
not forget the way they train there versus the way we train here. No matter how much sports science we put into this game, the intensity, the key to details over there versus here is huge, even in Mexico, bro. And so I
Yeah,
think one thing I would say, since you mentioned Mueller, to me, Herrera makes the same kind of impact at the Dynamo that Luis Suarez makes for Miami. You know, uh, the only difference is that the team is not playing for Herrera. Herrera is going to play for the team.
yeah,
And in Miami, we see Miami playing for Messi and Messi playing for Suarez, right? And so, but Herrera makes the same kind of impact in the team than those kinds of players. Why? Because at the end of the day, the IQ is there, the experience is there, the mentality is there, the winning mentality, which is what we lacked last season. I think that's the biggest impact in the team.
for
And
sure, for
clip
sure.
that chat, clip it, clip it.
I do agree with that, man. I do agree with that. And that with that being said, anything else you want to add on the return of Hector Herrera?
Ah, hey, no, just hey, go throw some autographs, Héctor, unos autógrafos, unas fotitos,
Oh
y
man,
tira las H the way you keep doing, and hey, bro, everybody's gonna be happy.
you know what, man? I have some Hector Herrera Dynamo cards that I do need some autographs on, and they're very very rare cards. So you
Me
know.
too, bro. I got two. Héctor, ¿qué onda? Una firma, ¿no?
With that being said, like I said, we're looking forward to seeing him on the pitch. But obviously, those four players are players that have crossed the I. I mean, dotted the I's, crossed the T's. They're Dynamo players. The press conference was amazing. It was great to hear them. Their ambition to join the club and to want to help the Dynamo propel them to a top echelon club in MLS. But Pat and Asher might not be done. There's a lot of rumors out there still going around. Lot of rumors. A lot of stuff, and it's crazy because I haven't seen as much activity, around the Dynamo in a long, long, long while. To be honest, this might be the most
Yeah,
activity I've ever seen in the
yeah,
offseason for a Dynamo club.
yep.
And it's interesting because last year was such a lackluster offseason, and this year they just said, you know what, man, they admitted to their faults. We fucked up last offseason. This offseason, we need to make up for it, and we need to have as many of these players signed and ready to go for the preseason. That way, we're not falling behind the first month of the MLS season. Because
For real.
honestly, that first month of last year was brutal. Was brutal,
Yeah, I
horrible.
hadn't had a beginning of the year like that in a while, man. To be quite fair, I mean, historically we do lose in the beginning of the season, but not this bad,
Not
you
not
know.
that, not like
A-
that, not like that,
and then
and then to have the worst home record in club history, like,
after
dude,
having the best,
yeah, after having the best road record in club history is like it's nonsense.
so
Uh,
so
this,
so we flipped the script because in 2024 we had the best home record and the worst away record, and this
yeah,
year we're like, oh,
nah, just nah.
opposites.
Let's just be bad at everything. Giuseppe on the chat says we ain't used to this, but I love it. Yeah, dude. I mean, like I said, look, the thing about any sports when it comes to transfers or free agencies or this is that, it's just the the new blood that comes in. The players who weren't affected by the negativity of last season. It's new blood, new perceptions, new visions, new goals, new objectives, new possibilities. Because you never know. You never know who might come in. You think that you're signing this DP player for X amount of dollars, and he's supposed to be the leader and the face of the franchise, and he might not deliver shit. But you signed this other guy, and he's a low level TAM player, but this guy is killing it, and he's blah blah blah. You just don't know, right? It can happen with anybody. But let's talk about some of these names that we're rumored to have coming over, and some of them are actually closer than others to being true. But we'll talk about that along the way as well. Let's first talk about Maxi Gomez, Uruguayan forward, former Uruguayan national team forward who's played in La Liga for Valencia and Celta. Your thoughts on Maxi Gonzalez, who currently is a Nacional, a team that we obviously know because we just transferred Nicolas Lodero to that club last year. Um, one of the big two clubs in Uruguayan soccer alongside Penarol. Your thoughts on Maxi Gomez? I don't know if you had any chance to look him up or to to see what about him. I know a little bit of him because obviously I follow La Liga and I used to watch him play and stuff like that. So, but any thoughts on Maxi Gomez and how and what percentage do you put this as being true or not true?
I could I mean, I think from my point of view, in my opinion only, I think he was. I would have thought the Dynamo went for him before. Um, what's this guy's name? Makarich or the guy we just signed from the Liga Dos. I thought he was gonna be first, and I think that might have fallen through, and that's why we signed this guy. But Maxi as a player, he's great, man. I mean, good track record, again, experience. He's been playing very well with Nacional. I got to see his stats. He's had great games. Um, he's a great player, good depth, good backup. I would have picked him up in a heartbeat. How true is this? I mean, we just got reports from Nacional, right? And that's about it. Yeah, could I see him coming here? Absolutely. Could I see him thriving in the system? Absolutely, man. He pressures pretty well, uh, and he's very dynamic. So whether that's true or not, hey, the more the merrier. I see. But let's not forget about the defensive line.
Yeah, I think Maxi, unfortunately for him, he played in the same era as some huge Uruguayan forwards. He
Yeah,
made the Uruguayan national team a
Cavani.
couple times, but obviously you had Luis Suarez in front of you, Cavani, Christian Struni, Darwin Nunez. Just the list goes on and on and on as far as Uruguayan forwards. But yet, even though with all that, Maxi Gomez still managed to get into the team and national team, play games, score goals for his national team, and all that good stuff. Play at a high level in La Liga with Valencia and Celta Vigo. So obviously when his name popped up, I was like, oh wow, hold up, what's this all about? Now let me throw this at you. There has been rumors of maybe Ezekiel Ponce going to Argentina or clubs in Mexico. I mean, obviously, and this is
I
what I
heard
like.
about that.
And this is what I like. This is the difference between this year and last year. You know, these clubs are floating around Ezekiel Ponce, right? And rightly so. Look, Ezekiel Ponce, he can score goals. He's made out for the Argentine first division or even Mexico.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I like the fact that they're being aggressive and having Maxi Gomez as, hey, look, this is it might not right now. It might be at a 20% chance because obviously, if Ezekiel stays with the Dynamo, then there's no need for a starting caliber number 9, right? But in the case that somebody comes in and gives us an offer we can't refuse for Ezekiel Ponce, then hey, we can go and pounce on Maxi Gomez and make that happen. Now, obviously, like I said, Maxi Gomez is a talented player. There's other clubs hovering around him, big name clubs. Not only us, but Pachuca has been
Pachuca.
linked to him, and River Plate, which is a huge club in Argentina.
Yeah.
Uh,
History, bro. Pero pagan con pasión y aguante. And that's the disadvantage. Okay.
so
So we got the money to bring him in over River, but River has
But
River,
Pachuca has the money over us to bring him in. So I mean,
That's
we'll see
true.
what happens. And supposedly Pachuca right now has a $4 million bid on him as right now. And we'll see what happens with that.
Pretty
But
solid, man.
it's a solid bid. So we'll see what happens with that. Do I think Ponce gets moved on? Like I said, I don't know. I think Ben Olsen likes Ponce, and I think if Ponce has has players that can feed him the ball, which I think they're bringing in with Guilherme and obviously Borges.
Hmm.
If the rumors are true that he's coming as well, um, it's going to give him a better shot to be to score more goals, right? And
You
it's
think
more.
so though? I mean,
We'll,
wouldn't
we'll,
Ponce
see- we'll
be
see.
a
We'll see.
guy? Wouldn't Ponce be a guy that thrives on crosses? We don't have a crosser.
We'll
That's
see.
the only thing he can do good for our system, in my opinion. And I'm sorry, guys, is just pressure. You know,
But I mean,
when
but,
he wait, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Because there now, if you give him the ball in the box, he can definitely create you space. He bullies people around, but then again, those are target man qualities, and I don't think we need a target man. I think we need a guy that can be dynamic, that can be problematic. Because let's not fool ourselves. It looks like we're gonna play with inside wingers again, or I mean,
Yeah,
inside forwards again. And so, why would you
integrated.
need a player like Why would you need a player like Ponce in your team
But like
if
I
you're
said,
not gonna?
Bonte is a good hold up number 9. He can cause a
Mhm.
lot of chaos in the box, right? He's not afraid to get physical in the box. He can hold the ball up and create for the innovative winger. He can create for Inali, for Borges, or for Guilherme. But we'll get to that here in a bit. But like I said, I like the fact that they're that they're 2 steps ahead of, like, hey, if this happens, we have a backup plan, and if we have a backup plan to the backup plan. So I like the thought process, and I like the fact that these things are out there now, man. Because like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they weren't ready last season or whatever. They might have had some players they had in mind. It's just the Mikael signing came at such a late time at the
It
at, at,
just
at the
fucked
window.
us, bro.
It really messes up. But like I said, but if they knew that there was big clubs like that hovering around, they should have been like, hey, let's get ready, just in case. But
Well,
I like
from what I'm told, I spoke to some people that reported on that. He was the one. His agent was the one looking for a spot in Liga MX. Now with Cruz Azul and Dynamo negotiating, there was tossed around for him to move there, and that was one of the Liga MX teams. The other one hasn't been disclosed yet. But it's not like they're. I mean, they are hovering around, but he's also being offered actively by his agent.
yeah,
So
I think I heard the rumors of Cruz Azul and Pumas to reunite
so
with Coco. So
and he was offered to, yeah, so he was offered there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, again, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, I like the fact that there's a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. A scenario A, scenario B, scenario C. And with that being said, let's go on to the next person who I think, since the recording of this podcast or whatever in the show, I think he is about to become reality a Dynamo player, but we'll still hold him over as a rumor right now because we don't know. And that is Nick Markanich, who's coming over from the second division of Spain from CD Catalon. He previously played in the USL with Charleston Battery, where he was the Golden Boot winner. Scored 24 goals in 30 games for them, and yeah, so he was their highest goal scorer. I think he holds the record. I think, if I'm not mistaken, for the highest goals in a season in the USL history. I'm not sure of that, but like I said, somebody who has experience scoring goals. Unfortunately, his time in Spain wasn't the most productive. But I mean, when you get the opportunity to go abroad, you take the opportunity. You hope to make the most of it. But unfortunately for him, he wasn't used too much over there. He was mostly a sub or a late game sub or whatever. So he wasn't really utilized the way he thought he was going to be utilized over there, like he was during his time in Charleston. So I'm not too familiar with the kid. I know he has a brother who plays for Minnesota United, the Loons and stuff like that. But like I said, look, he has experience scoring goals. Granted, it's in the lower division of soccer here in America, but I mean, you know how it is with these goal scorers. You get the confidence up and they start scoring goals and they start shooting the ball in the back of the net. It becomes a habit. So I mean, is it an upgrade from having a nephew from last year, Gabe Siegel or Sergio Santos? I don't know, but hey, but it's fresh blood. Somebody who's a Golden Boot winner in another league. Your thoughts on Nick?
Isn't it crazy to you how every year we get this crazy off the wall forward? Like we had Thor one year, we had Gabe one year, you know, and now we have, you
Nick.
know, Nick. Um, my thoughts are, being completely blatant and honest with you. I haven't seen him play. I know of his track record, and he was amazing at the USL. But the USL, how is he coming in from Castellon? He definitely has. He definitely practiced better. I expect him to have improved from being at the USL to La Liga Dos. I'm not too sure if he didn't play because he just wasn't what the coach wanted, or he just didn't develop the way they wanted. Right? We'll find out here. I'm hopeful we can get a third of the goals that he got, at the USL here. Uh, and as far as his age, I mean, his experience, but it's one of those signings that you can see it being a backup and maybe developing into something better. If
It's a low risk. I mean, he's obviously getting
yeah,
signed on.
it,
He's getting signed on loan with
on a
the
loan
option to
with the
buy.
yeah.
So it's
It's like an Eric Dueñas. Worst case scenario, you pluck him in nine of those to keep form and rhythm, and but I mean, I'm hopeful for him. I know nothing about the guy,
yeah,
and so but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
for
It's a
sure.
head scratcher for me based on where he played and where he was at, and I would feel like our team is better than some of the La Liga two teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, uh, that is just a head scratcher for me, but I'm hoping for the best.
I think it's just one of those things where, like, this kid had a phenomenal season at another league in America. Maybe, like you said, maybe he just didn't fit the coach's philosophy in Spain,
Hmm.
or maybe he wasn't utilized the right way. So maybe, hey, we bring him back, and he comes back motivated because obviously he left Spain not with the highest, not with the head held the highest. But I mean, but hey, look, the thing about soccer is you can go to a different league and you can dominate and be king. So maybe he comes
It's a
in with that.
revolving door, bro.
Yeah, it's all about the attitude and going out there and utilizing the minutes that are given to you and taking full advantage of them. I mean, look, like I said, look, this obviously is not the same position, but I didn't know who Felipe Andrade was. He was just some kid from Fluminense, and then he ended up in Dynamo Dos, and then he ended up taking
Escobar.
Escobar's spot, and you know how highly I thought about Escobar,
I love the guy.
I love the guy too, and the fact that we didn't renew him because we found this young kid who basically did the same thing, was younger and was cheaper. It's just goes to show the scouting and stuff like that, and what you can do when you're given an opportunity to play full time soccer. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm alongside with you. Hopefully, Nick takes full advantage of this opportunity and he becomes our backup striker, and he's able to score as many goals as he possibly can with the amount of minutes that Ben gives him if he gets any during the season. But yeah, shout out to Nick. I think that one is going to be more of a formality than a rumor, maybe here in the next couple of days or whatever.
Yeah.
But the big one that we've been hearing for the last couple of days, and there's a huge debate about it, and we'll have the debate afterwards. So I don't want to talk about the money.
Yeah. So
The money
chat,
associated.
save the comments.
Yeah,
Chat. We're gonna ask you something on the there. We're gonna interact with you
for
guys
sure.
because this is juicy, bro.
Mateusz Bogusz, Polish playmaker from Cruz Azul, previously with LAFC. Huge season during his last season with LAFC. One of the reasons why he got the big money move to Cruz Azul in Liga MX. Polish striker, he has played for this international team in Poland alongside the likes of Lewandowski and those guys. Your thoughts on Mateusz Bogusz? I mean, obviously he knows the league. He's played with LAFC. He knows what it is to win. He won the CONCACAF Champions Cup with Cruz Azul during his time there. He lifted the U.S. Open Cup with LAFC.
LAFC.
So I mean, he knows what it is about winning. He scored goals. He's a playmaker. He does assist. A lot of people see him as a winger, but I think we see him more as our playmaking second striker type or whatever.
Nine.
That type of player. Your thoughts on Mateusz Bogusz?
It's expensive, bro. He's really expensive. I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to mind, and the second thing to mind is, man, are we paying 10 mil for a player that hasn't played in 6 months? But why hasn't he played? That's a big question. Now, there's no denying the guy's quality, and a lot of people came at me and are, me and you are Surge members, and so we have the Discord, and some people came at me, hey, what's up? So some people came at me on the chat, bro, and they were like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. The guy killed it with LAFC, this and that. I'm like, well, that's all great, but he still didn't play, with Cruz Azul, and when he played, he wasn't a difference maker, and is the league is the league a step up from MLS? Or a lot of people claim MLS and Liga MX are there, right? But it just goes to show you the Liga MX is a step above us. There's no denying the quality of the guy. I just think that, man, just little by little, we were creeping up from 6.5 and now to 10 with variables. And it's just a huge risk to take on a guy that hasn't had form in the last 6 months.
One thing
But
go ahead.
but he will fit well, and he will bring that aggressiveness. And if he comes in, he's definitely benching Linger.
Yeah. One thing that I will say is if Ted and the front office are going to invest that amount of money, which obviously would break our record free as far as transfers for a player goes, right? I think they've done their homework. I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're just gonna blindly have their faith into a player who dominated for one season in MLS and then went out to Liga MX and busted, and maybe he can come back and find that magic again, right? Because look, who hasn't played for LAFC and has dominated, right? Look, LAFC has they bring in players. They bring in players who are gonna dominate, who are gonna score. they bring in players who sometimes they come in as no names and make a name for themselves. Look,
Escobar, biggest example.
Diego Rossi was a player like that. Dennis
Boanga,
Boanga is another one.
Blessing, Latif
Uh,
Blessing too.
Blessing, the kid that plays in America now, the Uruguayan, Brian Rodriguez. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
LAFC they find talent and they make and they make out the maximum potential of that talent, right? Am I gonna sit here and be like and say that we're like LAFC? No, I'm not gonna sit here and say that. It would be dumb for me to say that. Do I think that they've scouted the player long enough and obviously watched tape on him and see and have focused on what his strengths are on the pitch and his weaknesses are? Yeah, I believe that they've taken the time to scout that and to run the tapes and to go over the tapes and to talk with the coaching staff and see how this caliber of player can fit into your system and hopefully dominate in your system. Because, like I said, if you're going to spend the type of money that we're thinking the Dynamo are about to spend for Borges, it's because you're bringing a player that's going to come in and it's going to be ready to dominate at a big rate, right? And with that being said, I mean it's one of those moves where, like, as a Dynamo fan, you're excited because you're starting to see the Dynamo move into spending money that hey, look, if you're gonna
we're
be
not accustomed to. Yeah,
we're not accustomed to, but we gotta put on our big boy pants, and we gotta understand that sometimes we might sign a big player and he might not work out. Look at Atlanta United.
yeah.
Atlanta United signs Miguel Almaron. He works
Almiron,
out. He works out perfectly. But they go and sign Pity Martinez. Pity Martinez didn't work out for shit. But then they go again and been signed for Thiago Almada. Thiago Almada worked out, but then they went and signed for the English cat, Latat, whatever his name is, the striker.
yeah,
Didn't work out, but they still spend money. That's the gamble when it comes to these big money purchases. I know a
that's
lot of
right. I
Dynamo,
mean, happened with Ponce.
yeah, a lot of Dynamo fans are like, "Oh my God, he's not worth that." Blah blah blah. He's not this and this and that. Look, whatever the case is, I'll give you a shot right now, Cesspool.
No, I think that.
Whatever the case is, like I said, if they end up spending 12 million on the guy, right? But the guy gives you a 20 goal, 10 assist season, you're gonna be like, whatever. Hey, we
Yeah,
came out on top. If somehow he goes and he's a top five goal scorer in the league, or maybe even wins the Golden Boot, nobody's gonna be complaining later on, right? But obviously, the thought of the number is obviously that puts the pressure on the player, right? The same thing with, like, when Hector first came in as our first true ever DP. The fact that we're paying him this salary determines that he should be this type of player. When in reality, it's like, yes, he did become that type of player, but because of the position he plays, he can't control the game like a Messi, like a Son, like a Mueller. That's it's not possible. But with that being said, I want to hear your thoughts about Borges and the $10 million supposed transfer fee that we're about to pay for him. Do you think it's worth it?
Uh, so if it's a 6 mil and 4 variables, it's worth it. I mean, it's not as high as we had value. It's not as low as we had valuated him, or it's not as little as we wanted to pay. But 6 mil up front plus variables. I mean, there's a lot of things at play. Who knows what the clauses are, and if he meets those, right? So that would be a low risk, medium risk, high reward type scenario. My thoughts on it. I mean, like I said, there's no denying on the quality player he is, or he had been in the past.
Mhm.
Uh,
He's
but
24,
you know,
24 years old.
exactly. So
He's
he may
young.
be going through a bad slump, right? And let's hope that now, if he puts up those kind of numbers, trust me, nobody's gonna say anything. But then again, the difference between him and Herrera coming in, nobody questioned the amount of money we were paying Herrera. Nobody batted an eye on that.
But he came in on a
You
free.
know, no. The payment was designated him as a DP. Nobody questioned that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
when
yeah.
when we paid what we paid for Ponce, everybody was like, okay, we'll see what he got. right now we have a fan base that is very divided because there's a lot of Liga MX connoisseurs there. They know what they're talking about
Do
when
you
they talk
think?
about that kind of guy.
Well, when you say divided, okay, this is where I have the problem because I think divided is from the fact of name brand, right? Because when we say DP player, we're stuck in our heads. Beckham, Cuauhtémoc Blanco, Thierry Henry, Steven Gerrard, Messi,
Yeah.
Suarez, players of that caliber. When we think DP, we're thinking that type of player, a
Well,
world
a lot of
class
people
player,
do.
that's going to come in and is going to change the whole culture, right? Borges is not that. He's not that, right? But he is a young up and coming player, like I said, 24 years old, who has his whole career in front of him, prime, all that good stuff, whatever. So, and who has experience in this league already, has had positive experience in this league already. So, those are two pros that we can check off as, that's a pro, that's a pro, that's a pro, right? The con obviously is the money, right? Like you said, hey, it might be 6 million up front with 4 million variables, and they might get like a 20% sell on clause, depending on if we move
That's
them on or
crazy.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, whatever the case may be, because at the end of the day, I look at it as I'm hoping that I'm paying the full 10 million, because if I'm paying the full 10 million, that means that he achieved everything he needed to achieve, and he was a top level player. You know, that's the way I look at it. I'm not worried about whether he's going to cost me 6 million or 10 million or 12 million, whatever. Because at the end of the day, if he achieves those $4 million worth of variables or incentives
Oh,
or objectives or whatever,
we're on top. Yeah.
then his value skyrockets. He becomes more valuable, and then who knows? Maybe I move him on and I sell him for 20 mil next year or in 2 years, whatever. And I
That's the
flip that
hope.
money and we keep it going. But like I said, but the thing that I have here, and I think the thing that scares a lot of the Dynamo fan base is the fact that when we think of DP, we think of world class, you know, and like I mentioned, Hector was our first true DP, a player who has world renowned name, world class player of sorts, who has achieved big goals, big championships, and big time leagues in Europe, and that's why we got excited the way we got excited during his first stint. Borges is you're hoping he becomes Evander. You're hoping he becomes Martin Ojeda. You're hoping he
Diego
becomes
Luna
you,
and the
you,
impact side,
and
the
on
difference
that
maker.
on that impact side, he would be that type of DP. Because like look, I was vouching like look, let's go get Evander. I didn't know who Evander was before he came to Portland Timbers. But
No,
but
but
shit, but I saw what he did with Portland Timbers, and now I'm seeing what he did with Cincinnati, and I see why he's a DP player. Martin Ojeda, I knew a little bit of him because, like I said, I followed a little bit of the Argentine First Division, but he came in. They lost Forcando Torres to Palmeiras. Ojeda took over. Scoring goals, assists, true number 10. Great player. Now I see why he's a DP. So like obviously, it would be great to get a world class player, a Griezmann, a Dybala, Lewandowski,
that's
whoever.
crazy.
But
Those
but
people are delusional. First of all, you guys are
but but but,
delusional for that.
but like I said, but if we're gonna try to ever catch up to the LAFCs, to the Seattle Sounders, to the top echelon of the MLS, we have to spend this type of money on these type of players. It can't just be for the world class player. Go ahead, Cesspool.
But I don't. So I'm one of those fans that's a little split, right? And
Mhm.
and in my end, when I think of a DP, I think of a DP in the true sense of the word, like you said it. And the
Mhm.
main reason why is because it's just look back at the DPs we used to have, and none of them have been. We understood the Dynamo was a collective. The
Mhm.
Dynamo is not an individual, and we understand that the Dynamo play as a unit. The Dynamo's biggest strength is the team.
The unity.
Um, yes, where a lot of people that I speak with that don't think crazy, like, bring Griezmann, maybe a Timo Werner, maybe somebody like that, right? That is already in a decline, but he still has the quality to play for us. But it's more so in the sense of I'm split because I mean, you couldn't. make an impact when you were coming off a hot season in the last 6 months, bro, and you only lasted 6 months in a club where they paid 10 million for you. They didn't
But
have the patience for you. Now they're
that's true.
replacing you. So that's where my issue comes. Like, how bad are you on negotiating that you have to still pay the 10 mil for a
No,
guy that
that's true. That's true. But at the same time, but like we know, philosophies are different, right?
right
Coaches are different. Coaches, and especially in Liga MX, coaches come in, coaches leave, philosophy changes. Things of that nature comes in. The person who brought you in is fired a month
it's not
later, and
there
then
yet?
yeah, it's this is that. So with that being said, look, what's the Greek forward that was in Atlanta who went to Kusasu? Girokas or
Oh,
something?
Yakumakis.
Yeah,
Yakumakis. I mean, he was
Yakumaki.
atrocious. I mean,
Yakumaki.
atrocious.
He scored how many goals for Atlanta United? He was a 20 goal scorer
Yeah,
for Atlanta United, right?
amazing.
And then he goes to Cruz Azul and disappears. You know,
Where is he
like
now?
that's what I'm saying. But like,
That's what I'm afraid of, you know?
but that's what I'm saying.
Or who is this guy from Cincinnati? Vasquez, you know? Okay, he's catching his mojo back here at Austin, right?
Mhm.
But still, like, it's a big question because you've had players that move to Liga MX, and if you don't break out, then you stay
Yeah, but I
stuck.
mean, but like I said, but I mean, it's like I said, he comes back to a league he's familiar with. He understands, and like I said, I don't think that they're just bringing him in because of the one great season he had at LAFC. I think
No,
that
for
they
sure.
obviously they scouted him and they saw how he played for LAFC, and they said, you know what, he fits in my system great, and he can do a lot of damage as my playmaker on this team. You know, and that's what I think. But look, I'm gonna look at it this way. Do I think they could have spent that 10 mil differently or for a better player? For sure, yeah, for sure. One player that comes directly to mind to me that I think they could have brought in that would be worth the 10 mil or even a little. They probably could have got a little less. Tadeo Allende from Miami, who's going back to who's going back to La Liga because they're not going to pick up his purchase option
His buyout, yeah.
because obviously Enter Miami when they use DPs, they're going for DP players. They're not going for just whatever. And Tadeo had a great season with Miami, double digits goal scoring in the regular season, and then he holds the record for most goals in the playoffs for a single playoff season with 9 goals. And he literally helped Enter Miami win that MLS Cup last year. You know, he would be a player that I would want to invest $10 million in. You know, not only
Mhm.
is he a winger or somebody, he's a goal scorer. He's somebody who's already played at this level, at a high level. You know, and has won it all. So I mean that would be my only fallback. But like I said, I'm not opposed to the Dynamo going after Borges. I'm actually excited and looking forward to it. And if it crosses the line, which I think it will, and maybe it'll be announced tomorrow. And if it is announced tomorrow, then we'll be on next week and we'll be talking about that formally, being done. But you know,
I
I
would have
think
picked up Mihalovic from LAFC, bro. I
yeah.
mean, from Colorado.
But with that being said, like I said, it's look, we complain as a fan base that the Dynamo don't want to spend. Now the Dynamo are spending, and now we're complaining you're not spending on the right guy. Like let's see first. Let's let it play out. I
I'll give
think
you
that
that. I'll give you that.
I think beggars can't be choosers. They can't be picky. It's one of those
But
things
we're
where like
not
look,
begging, bro. We had we had the best wallet there. I mean, like I said, just it's not about the amount
no
that we're
no,
paying. It's just who we're
but that's what I'm
like
saying.
that what he's played in the last 6 months.
No, for
That's
sure.
my only
I get it.
issue because he still is who he is.
I get it. I get it completely. I get it completely. But we can't judge this book until this book is written. Right now,
Oh, for sure.
we don't even have the cover yet. So it's one of those things where like as a fan base, we're always going to look for something to complain about. Hey, the Dynamo aren't willing to spend. Okay, here we're going to spend. The Dynamo aren't willing to spend on the right player. Like who's the right player? Oh, if it isn't a world class player, I don't want to hear about it. Look, guys. Look,
Bring in form. Bring in a guy that has had good
I
track like
mean,
Bouzat. Why couldn't you bring a player like Bouzat, but at a 10 mil mark,
but
where
look,
Bouzat has had constant playing time with his team, where he's been a reference in his club? That's all we want as a DP, a reference player in a higher status club than ours. It's not too hard to ask for.
No, I get that, but I also say this, and I'll leave it at this because we got to move on because we're kind of going over time here.
Yeah.
A lot of people are clamoring for Chucky Lozano. You know,
Well,
and
he is being offered to the Dynamo. He
hold
is
on,
being
hold on,
offered, and the same guy that
hold
revealed
on,
Herrera a day before
hold
is the
on,
same guy reporting on Chucky.
hold on. Now, people are clamoring for Chucky Lozano. Why? Because he's a Mexican player. Obviously, we know the Mexican national team is a different thing, whatever this is and that.
That's
But
not
look,
why, bro.
but look, in my honest opinion, Chucky Lozano, he's an okay player, right? Good player. But
He's not
in
better
my
than Bogusz. I mean, just say that.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. Look, he's been
Just
living
go back and look at the tapes.
he's been living off he's been living off that World Cup goal off Germany for 3 years now,
He
for
took
4 years
San
now.
Diego to the playoffs. What you mean he's been living off of that one goal?
He was on the bench for the last 3 months of them.
He played at PSV. He came out. He's back in
Man.
his prime. And the
He's
only reason he's in the bench is because his coaches and him had,
man,
off the field issues.
you're gonna
I'm
tell me
just saying.
you're gonna tell me that he helped Napoli lift a Serie A title when he just sitting on the bench for Napoli, just eating.
He wasn't, though.
Eating
Him and
pasta.
Immobile were switching back and forth
Man.
because Napoli was playing Champions League and that.
Nah.
I'm just saying.
But look,
I'm just saying.
but with that being said, like I said, whether or not Chucky Lozano is better than Borges or Borges is better than Lozano, like I said, it's just the mindset of people. We're like, hey, because I know who this player is, I think that this player will be better. He might not be. He might be a cancer.
That's true.
He might come in, fuck up the whole thing. While this player comes in and he's willing to be a team player, play with unity, and play his role. Like I said, there's a lot of different variables. But with that being said, we got to move on, guys.
The only thing I want to clarify, I'm not against Bogus coming in. I'm just apprehensive, and I wanted to make the point of the people that actually know soccer IQ of why they're apprehensive about him. It has nothing to do with him being a world class player or not, or the brand. It's more about bringing a reference player from a higher status club than ours. That's it.
Okay.
That's all it comes down to.
Does him playing for Poland alongside Lewandowski not count for anything?
It's like saying Memo Ochoa showing up every 4 years at the World Cup.
I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying, that's kind of where we're at. Do we really have to gauge a player by the national team? He's at his club most of the time.
I'm not gauging it by the national team, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of people reference Mexican players because the Mexican national team
and they won't show up to the freaking games either way. Those people are the kind of people that won't show up.
But anyway, but with that being said, guys, look, we're a little bit over time, so we're gonna clean this up. We're gonna get out of here. But thank you for spending time with us. Our first show for 2026. A lot of excitement, obviously, a lot of passion because obviously a lot of stuff is going on. So I'm most definitely for sure we're probably gonna have a show next week unless something happens. But we'll keep you updated on our socials and stuff like that. Shout out to Giuseppe. Thank you for being on the chat, my guy. Appreciate all the love and and the chat being, as active as it was. Shout out to OSG, Andres, and all those guys, Foxtrot Media guys, all those guys. We wish you. We hope that you follow us this 2026 season on our socials, on YouTube, on Foxtrot TV, on our socials. I'm sorry, I don't know the socials as well as Andres, but I'm sure Andres will get them posted on here as soon as he gets everything situated and edited with this show. Xespool, is there anything you want to add before we leave?
Hey, don't forget, guys, we just launched the website, dynamicfoxtrot.com. Make sure you guys go visit it. Andres, if you can put it down here, dynamicfoxtrot.com. Guys, the website just launched. My good friend Andres behind the entire page. It looks amazing. We're going to keep you up to date with all the news, all the podcasts, all the videos are going to be there. So, guys, check it out. Game days are going to be there as well. Galleries, it's going to get populated. It's going to be popping. Do not let it go. Put it on your favorites, and then follow us, Marquinhos. Follow me on the Twitter, and of course, follow your friends from Dynamic Foxtrot on YouTube, Instagram, and of course, Twitter.
Yeah, guys, and like I said, you can follow me at Segovia on X. Cesspool at Cesspool, I'm sure, on Twitter as well. So looking forward to an amazing 2026 season with you guys. Looking forward to seeing you here on YouTube and on chat. Obviously at the stadium, at the bars, wherever. World Cup is coming this year. A lot of great stuff. New players are coming to the Dynamo this year. So a lot of great things coming, guys. So we look forward to having you come along for the ride with us. And like I said, regardless of what's going on, we're always going to hold it down for H-Town.
Hold it down.
Hold it down, baby.